Whether you think so or not, it is quite possible that you could be charged one day with a crime. You might not think that that's possible, but in fact it could be if you were driving under the influence. And people may not realize whether that it's actually a crime. It's not, it would be equivalent to other crimes. You have law enforcement and criminal courts, and you have the potential in some situations for spending time in prison.
You do. In fact, people don't understand that the only two things you have to do to have a DUI is to intend to consume the impairing substance, which is usually alcohol, but it could be prescription drugs, over-the-counter drugs, it could be anything, including plant materials like marijuana, and the intent to drive. That's the only two things you have to know. You don't have to have specific intent to be an impaired driver. And so people are always asking me, well, what do I do if I'm pulled over? Well, the best thing you can do is protect your legal rights. And the way to do that is to do what the Constitution says you can do. You can remain silent if you're being questioned. Everything on the side of the road, field tests, everything is voluntary. Handheld detectors, field sobriety test, walk and turn, one-leg stand, follow a pin, blow into that handheld thing, all that's voluntary and optional. All you have to do is politely decline. And then the most important thing after that is that if you don't take the test, you can be suspended without any driving privileges. There's no work permit on a refusal. So I tell people, go ahead and take the officer's test, and then you have the right to your own independent test or tests. The first one you should go get is a blood test at a hospital nearby that you know, and that you know you could probably get in and pay for, and the officer has to accommodate you getting the money. You need to go to an ATM. And when you get the blood drawn, you're not going to get a number that night, so you may also want to ask for an additional breath test, which you're entitled to, and you can say, take me to a different police station. That way, you have not given any unnecessary evidence to the roadway. You do have to tell them who you are, to show ID, but beyond that, you don't have to say anything. And it's much better to remain silent than to lie. Don't tell a lie at the side of the road saying, I haven't been drinking when you reek of alcohol. It's better just to remain silent.
Now, you mentioned before that you said that the tests are all voluntary, but then you followed up by saying, I think you should take it and then ask for additional tests. Were you saying take the officer's roadside test?
No, not the roadside test. That's voluntary, optional. Once you're in cuffs, they read you a card called implied consent. The implied consent is a warning that they're telling you, if you don't take this test, your license or privilege to drive on the highways of the state of Georgia. That second part is if you're licensed in another state, will be suspended for a minimum period of 1 year.
And the test they're referring to, though, is that the roadside they're referring to, or they're referring to refusing the test back at the station?
Most of the time it's at the police station or the jail you're going to. They can use a portable device at either a Batmobile, and some now they're trying to switch to a new machine that will be more portable so that officers could use a cigarette lighter for power and have it in his or her car. So that's going to be coming up next year, but not this year.
So the test they're basically saying is if you refuse the one back at the station, hypothetically, that's the one that triggers the revocation of the license.
That's correct. And if you refuse at the roadway and you're clear that you're not going to take it, the officer doesn't even have to put you in front of the machine. So the best thing to do is go ahead and say, I will take it, and by the way, I'm going to want my independent test or test once I take your test. And that way the officer's on notice and better not just take you over to custody, because you can win your case if the officer doesn't accommodate your reasonable request for independent testing.
Well, it makes it sound like, and I'm gonna state the obvious for the benefit of everyone listening, what it makes it sound like to me is that you're saying if I get pulled over, in all likelihood I'm getting arrested. I didn't hear anything in between in what my ear heard of, hello, how are you, sir? And please spread your legs.
Well, as a general rule, if you smell of alcohol or the officer has reason to believe you're on some other type of substance because they either smell marijuana or they can see a bottle of pills that's open and you've got 4 or 5 of them in the seat and you look like you've had those, the officer's going to take you in whether you admit or do anything or not.
Well, what if you haven't? What if I'm driving home from the station today? I have not been drinking. I do not take any prescription medicine or any other type of substance, and I'm pulled over, and he asks me if I have been drinking, and I have not been drinking.
Well, all you have to say is, officer, do you smell anything on me? If you don't smell anything on me, that's enough. But you don't have to answer any questions. You can ask questions, and the whole point of it is if you truly haven't had anything,
yeah,
then the handheld detector is only going to detect types of ethanol. And it also can detect isopropyl alcohol. But the thing I'm telling you is that most people aren't in that situation. If the officer says, they don't usually say, have you been drinking? They say, when was your last drink? Because they already make it sound like they know the answer to the question.
Right. So when